Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. Now, we are a weekly podcast focusing on the paranormal, the supernatural, and the metaphysical. Now, join us for thought-provoking discussions on paranormal phenomena, conspiracies, and all things unexplained as we talk to researchers and investigators about ghosts and hauntings, UFOs and aliens, urban legends, cryptids, and so much more. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. You can also visit us at www.paranormallypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. I thank you again for watching and or listening, and we hope to see you for the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. So grab yourself a drink and a snack. Turn the lights off on the way back. Find yourself a nice comfy spot and enjoy this episode of Paranomaly. Stay with us, folks. Hey everyone, thanks for joining in tonight. We have Mark Rayworth here. Now Mark is an experiencer of many different phenomena since he was young, with nearly 20 years experience working within the realms of the paranormal, including psychic and mediumship demonstrations around the UK. He knew that something was a little off and that there was something bigger happening within the nature of our reality. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you said, I've had a lot of experience since I was a young age. Probably saw my first weirdness entities when I was very young with my sister. But it didn't stop there. It carried on up until I was, in my teenage years. Obviously, life takes over then. And then when I was around 20, I got back into experiencing stuff and seeing phenomena, and also I got to add as well, I was witness to the Night of the Triangles in this country. It was a huge UFO sighting here years back, where two giant triangles were above me and my mum. There's something to add as well. When I was 8, so that's another thing I remember. But all led me down the road of the paranormal, psychic and mediumship, and seeing all the stuff that comes along with that, the ghosts, the spirits, and everything else people call them. But I have got another viewpoint on them if you want to cover that later, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you actually got into like stage performances too, with mediumship.
Yes. Yeah, done a lot. So it kind of starts. I started training. I went to a place in Somerset in Britain. I don't know if you've heard of it, place here. And I trained with a medium called Bill Harrison for a while. And he's not with us no more. And then moved back down to where I was in Swansea. Started, as everybody does, started working the churches after all the training. And it just goes on from there then. So you start getting booked for evenings and events and stuff like that, and then it just grows. So
now Mark, let me ask this question. How old was you when you started to realize that you had gifts, that you could do things that other people couldn't?
Well, I don't know if it's a case of doing things that other people couldn't, but I remember when I was very young, I used to see and hear voices and stuff, and I had experience when I was very young of being pushed over the top of the stairs in my house, but not touching the stairs, and being rolled and laid out on the floor at the bottom. So that was my first experience there. And then I was playing with magnets one day, and a little voice in my head, and I was very, very young, was telling me that cars will run on magnets one day. So but I think, you know, we more or less there with magnetism. You got the trains running magnetically and stuff. So yeah, so it's very young age. I'd say from you know, from 5 around there upwards, lots of stuff happening.
Okay, okay.
Why don't we go through? Let's come through all those early experiences. And so there was apparitions that you and your sister saw. One that had no face. Was that
That's right.
so?
Yeah.
What was the first thing you saw as far as apparitions, and what do you think the nature of that was, etc.?
The one with no face. My sister can't remember it, but I remember it clearly. It the other side of the door in our living room. There used to be this guy sometimes, and he had like a white. I can't even call it a robe. It was like a white long thing and no face. And he was physical because we could touch him, and we used to poke him and go under the table in our house to hide from him. But when I called my grandpa, who was there at the time, my grandfather, he couldn't see him. So I kind of clicked on, and that was something. But it didn't really frighten me or scare me or enough for me to react in a particular way. So, but I remember I must have been very young, because I used to remember asking my mother about him. I used to call him the doll, and she couldn't understand what I was asking.
You
but I
used
remember I knew what I was asking. I wanted to see that guy, that entity, that thing. But she thought I was talking about a doll because I was asking for a doll. I didn't know which way to explain him, or I didn't have it in my psyche to describe what he was. So
you said you called him the doll, like
the
DOLL.
doll, yeah.
The doll. Okay.
Yeah.
I find that so bizarre that you were able to touch him and
Yeah, I know,
actually
I
felt
know.
something solid, because that's the thing with apparitions, and that's kind of what I wanted to get into the detail of. So when you would look at these things, there's no difference between, you know, the apparition of these figures and a solid-looking human, or is there some subtle difference that you can notice, or is it just exactly the same? No
He
difference
was
between.
solid. He was no different, not ghostly, not translucent in any way. He was solid to touch, this entity, whoever it was. So yeah.
And as far as, I mean, like when you would touch him, as far as behaviorally, you know, as how he was animated, I mean, did it seem like he was, you know, like attentive, you know, to what was going on in this realm, or distant, some kind, or
No, he was. He didn't move at all.
he didn't move at all and didn't look at you? Did he look at you?
Well, he didn't have a face, so it was. I couldn't see which way he's looking. But
Oh, right. Okay.
it was the one with no face.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
And
but
where his face was there just skin,
it was
or
just skin, and it was
just
just like,
skin?
yeah, just skin. Really weird.
And I wonder why, you know, why
Yeah.
no face, you know? What is your thoughts as far as, do you think that, I mean, that was just how this entity looked, or do you think that, I mean, I always kind of get the feeling that, you know, this is very orchestrated, you know, that the whole sighting is intentional, you know, something is revealing itself to you for some nebulous purpose, you know, it might not be understandable to us.
Mhm.
And everything about the appearance, you know, is calculated, you know, like they intend you to see, you know, male with no face. Um, or what do you think about the apparitions? Do you think that it was, you know, that you were just kind of seeing into another realm, and some of this was unintentional? It was just a matter of having that kind of perception that, you know, is partially in the physical, also in the non-physical? Or do
Well,
you feel like that they're orchestrated, you know, that
I think, well, one thing, my grandfather couldn't see him, so that was something. But to me, looking at him, he was solid, and so there's something weird going on there. The only time when I've really analysed what I saw there is later on in life, when I can, you know, make more assumptions of what it could be. And to me, it you know, at an opinion is somehow he was watching or looking at us, me and my sister, playing for some whatever reason. But this entity was from somewhere. He's ported in from somewhere. He got into the house from somewhere. So he's from somewhere and he's watching. He was watching for some reason. That's the only way I can explain it. That one.
And do you
I can't
think?
actually remember telling Miles that one.
Yeah, I don't think you did. And do you think that there could have been any kind of symbolic meaning of the no face, and also, do you think that it was from a non-physical realm and manifested materially, or do you think sometimes these apparitions are coming from other sort of parallel physical realms?
I think they come in from other realms. I think maybe sometimes they can take other forms or forms that they need to take to enter this realm, but as a kind of vehicle kind of thing. But I think they come from other realms, because it's my belief that we come from other realms, all different realms. So yeah, but I still don't know what he is.
Now, when you seen this figure when you was young, was there any other paranormal type of things happening in that house that you grew up
in? Yeah, it was. There used to be we used to have bunk beds in the bedroom, me and my sister, and there used to be we used to have like children's tables and chairs by the window, and there used to be a woman that would sit there, an old woman sitting in a chair, and I used to slide down because I was the top bunk. I used to slide down the ladder and run straight into my parents' bedroom every time, because I used to shit myself really. But yeah, so stuff like that happened all the time, and I never felt comfortable in that house. And I saw stuff out the back of the house, and it was interesting because we moved to the house next door, which was again had a not comfortable presence in that house, probably because a part of my fear was triggered. So my neighbor came to me one day when I was in school, and I was around 15. It wasn't long before I was going to finish school over here, and she said, "Mark, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." She said, "When you lived in this house, did you ever see anything?" And I said, "Yeah." And then she explained what she saw. So she used to see a little girl coming into the bedroom and looking out to the window. She could never wake her husband when this happened, and that was the weird thing. But she used to see it quite a lot. So there's definitely something going on. There's definitely some sort of energy center there where they, where they're all coming in. So.
And if I got you right on when you talked about this in the Miles interview, the Bases interview, you never saw the little girl ever.
No, I never saw the little girl.
I just want to hone in on the detail. She was not able to wake up her husband every time this happened.
Yeah.
That's odd, and that's very akin to an abduction experience. Many people that have the abduction experiences, there might be someone in the bed with them, their husband or maybe their children, and they're unable to be woken, during these experiences. And it's, thought that through some kind of technological means, they're kept in a kind of stasis state.
Yeah.
And that kind of resembles that. So you said that originally the man with no face, you had no fear of at all.
No fear at all. We was teasing him, me and my sister. We'd poke him, and they were in front where the door was. In front of him was like a round tables and chairs, and then we'd run under the chairs so in case he was trying to catch us. And then we'd come out, and if he was still there, we'd prod him again. So I can't know how many times we've done that, but I remember it clearly.
And so, but the old woman you were terrified of, and you would run every time you saw her. Now, was that because you were a little bit older then when you saw the old woman, and a little bit more sort of cognizant of the fact that this shouldn't be happening, this person doesn't belong, or what explains the discrepancy?
She looks scary.
She looks scary.
She looks scary. So her hair and everything I could see, and she was just sitting there, and she wouldn't look at me. She was looking like in the corner, because she was in front of a window, and she was looking and wouldn't look at me. So that made it even more scary to me, looking back on it. And yeah, that's when I used to take flight.
And so no communication ever with these apparitions. There was
No
no
communication, no.
communication whatsoever. And during that young, had you had any communication at all with anything during this period, even telepathically, this young, or
Not that I
was
remember there.
so the
No.
totality of the paranormal experiences during this phase of your life was just perceiving entities and figures
Yeah,
in the house.
yeah.
What else along those lines before we move on from that, as far as apparitions and other things you saw during that period in the first house or the second house?
The second house, then, it's something really simple. I went out the back garden, and there's a fence out there, and in the fence was a baby's arm. And I'd called my mother, and by the time she came, it just vanished in front of my eyes. So it's a weird thing to see, but it was definitely a baby's arm. So
like a baby's arm not attached to a baby's body, like sticking.
No body on it, just like the forearm, and it was like behind the fence, and there was like a wooden part. It was just like that. Just the arm. So
that's so odd. So I mean,
it
just begs the question. We all just like shake our heads, but what is the meaning? Like of course there is like the kind of trickster motif, that could explain away a lot of the kind of randomness, that they that maybe they don't even have much of a rhyme or reason to it. I mean, maybe again, you're seeing in other realms and you're just seeing, other entities. Then again, I tend to lean more towards, something is, orchestrating this from behind the scenes and is doing this for your observation and has some kind of idea in mind, but there might not be much rhyme or reason to it. Maybe it is just to get human. It seems to be the case with certain entities, and you definitely get this feeling with, let's say, the entities that people see on DMT trips, that they're genuinely, like we are, interested in human reactions and like to see your reaction to things and different things and get a kind of satisfaction from that.
That's right.
And
the amount of times that the front door knocked in that house, in the second house, and there was nobody there, always happened early in the morning. There'd be a loud knock on the door, we'd go downstairs and there'd be nothing there. And that happened a lot of the time.
You yourself, as a little boy, would go downstairs and open the door?
Well, I was a bit older then. I was a teenager, and that used to happen. So it would knock, and I generally think there's someone in.
And so your parents never saw anything at all, but your sister did see.
She saw that entity. Yeah, she just can't remember, but she saw it. But no, my dad, he never saw anything. He never mentioned anything. All my grandparents used to come up there a lot. So
the fact that your sister doesn't remember anything at all, was it because she was super young then, and because of how young she was, she just had forgotten, or is there something odd about the fact that she doesn't remember any of this? Is there an indication here of a memory suppression in some kind of way?
I think there's an element of fear with my sister, and she's can be quite religious, and she's very scared of the demonic and stuff like that. So I think there's an element of fear that blocks out her remembering stuff, and she doesn't want to go there. It affects her. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. That is one of the explanations, behind in the abduction phenomenon, why we have these memory lapses, because something, your psyche or your higher self or something, is for your own good. suppressing those memories so you can function. Okay, so move on from there. So I know there's some gaps, I guess, during this period where you stop seeing stuff and then you start seeing stuff again, or is that what happens next? Or
Well, after that, and in between, I used to live with my gran a lot in a different house, and this is where my psychic ability started to kick in, because while we were driving up to my dad's house, where I was supposed to live, I would have visions and stuff that would come true, random stuff. And then there was an out-of-body experience, which I spoke about a lot when I was traveling on the road with mediumship. I was out of body, and I saw an aunt that just died, and she told me she's with a woman named Mam Williams. And when I looked to see who Mam Williams was, it was the woman that I knew as my gran, but I never heard her being called Mam Williams. So they went on to tell me that the woman who was actually it's very complicated. The woman who was actually my gran, who I knew as my auntie, because we were all mumble jumbled our family, was going to go in the hospital, but she was going to be fine. And they kind of showed me in a hospital bed in like a visual they showed me.
did they show you her? Did they show you the actual visual, or was it a representation of it, or like what did it match?
They showed me that I turned around, and they actually, I could actually see my aunt in a hospital bed, there in the whole scenario. So
in which matched the way it looked like in real life. I mean, did you actually see her in the hospital bed when she?
I don't know if it matched, to be honest with you.
I'm always wondering, about that in particular. Whether you're actually seeing the thing, or whether it's a psychic representation of it.
Yeah.
That always interests me.
It
But
is,
anyway,
yeah.
go ahead.
In that realm, it's probably it's probably some sort of mirror, and it's mirroring our reality in a sense. So it may be slightly different with different things or different inputs. But
right. And what does that?
I went downstairs that morning because I was in my aunt's house, and I said, I had a dream last night, and I saw Joyce, the lady that just passed. I said, oh yeah, and she said she was with Mam Williams, and with that, my aunt just dropped. She had a pan. She was cooking like a Sunday lunch. She dropped the saucepan, and I said, when I looked at Mam Williams, it was Edna, who was my nana, and she couldn't believe it. And then I went on to tell her the good news that they told me you go into hospital, and she did. She had a burst abscess. About a couple of weeks later, and was in the hospital. It was touch and go, but she was all right, like they said.
So Mark, this was like a premonition.
Yeah,
I want to say premonition. I'm not sure if that's the words that we need, but you was pre-shown this happening.
Yeah, it was like an out of body kind of. Yeah, the whole scenario was built, and whichever way they do that over there.
And for the intention of, so that when the event would happen, you would be kind of spared emotionally in some way from thinking that she was going to die, or like, why was that so necessitous that you had to have an out-of-body experience for that to be conveyed to you? Or wasn't it necessitous? You were out of body, and they just thought, well, while you're here, just so you know, this is going to happen, and she'll be fine. Or
and looking back, because it's quite a profound experience. So I think I was given a number of experiences to allow me to feel and experience that and know what it's like. That's me explaining that now. But obviously back then I thought different, but it was profound at the time. Yeah, but why? There was nothing constructive about the message. It was just an experience. It wasn't as if I could help her in any way. They just give me the information. So.
And you would come out of the body randomly, not in your control. Do you think that you were taken out of the body, by something, or do you think that your consciousness was just traveling, or?
Well, that's two different things, because I believe we can randomly come out of body, and it can be consciously set up as well, out of body. So I think those two variables will and can happen and do happen.
And both happened in your case, or do you think it was
I've experienced
one or the other?
I've experienced both. Yeah, I've experienced both. Yeah.
And what was your reaction to coming out of the body at a young age before you knew anything about the possibility of that? Some people, when they have out of body experiences, think that they've died. Think that I must be dead. If I'm outside the body, and it can be very traumatic.
It is. The first time I came out of the body was traumatic, because it was before that experience, and it was on a dentist chair, and I had to have teeth taken out, and four of the dentist and the nurses held me down, and they put gas on me and gassed me, and that was a traumatic experience. I came out of my body, and I watched the dentist work on me while I was sitting down the bottom. So that was the first out of body experience I had, and I just knew what it was when it was happening. When I watched him do the whole thing. I watched him washing his stuff in the sink, and then I went like a magnet. I went back into my body, woke up feeling terrible, but remembering that experience and remember seeing it. So it was trauma that probably got me out of the body that time. But again, experience I think I was meant to have.
Yeah, that seems to be one of the sort of common denominators with people that have OBEs, is that maybe not with all, but it seems that in some people they develop it as a coping mechanism because of trauma. And oftentimes you find that people who have an easy ability to go out of body, sometime in their childhood, there was some kind of traumatic event where they either haphazardly or not, sort of discovered this, that they could sort of remove themselves, from the physical torment, whatever it was. Is that the case? Did you have anything in your past that would account for that, or does that not fit with you?
In regards to the trauma?
Yeah, in terms of experiencing trauma and that leading to that capability or proneness to disembody.
I think that the dentist chair was probably the biggest trauma. That was a very traumatic experience for me. I can still remember it. That was probably the most trauma I had. Obviously, there's other traumatic experiences that, because you find that a lot of people with psychic ability and out of body ability and stuff, they've all suffered some sort of traumatic experience, as you say. And there's always something. It could be a form of abuse or anything like that, but they search for something more, and that's where I think then the traumatic experience is not really a mistake sometimes. So it's a whole different book going.
Right. Yeah, but I do believe that too.
Yeah, you know what, Mark, there's a question here. Someone had asked, have you ever had a near-death experience and not just an out-of-body experience?
No, I've never experienced a near-death experience. No. Probably the closest there was the dentist chair to that. But no, not that way.
And it is interesting because in my experience, talking to people for as long as I have been, most of the time, what you describe is almost like a near-death experience. Yeah. So listening to your story and then putting this together, it's very interesting that that you've had that. And I believe Jim even touched base on that just a little bit ago, that the out of body experience, it's usually indicative of a near death experience.
Yeah.
So
It's the same thing.
There's
Really,
a relationship between the two for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And out the body though, we coming back for a period of time.
Right.
Yeah.
And how scary would that be to be able to look from a different angle down at yourself? I mean, that to me would be that would be an extreme experience as well.
And some people have trouble getting back into the body and struggle for quite some time,
Yes.
not able to get back into the body, and this adds to the fear.
It does, yeah.
And that's really something. Do you want to do a quick little sidebar? I know you have some interesting perspectives on NDEs and the astral realms, which differ a little bit from my own. What is your perspective of NDEs? Am I getting it right? I've listened to you talk about this a little bit. You think that the astral realms, or 4D, or at least the portion of it that we go into during a near-death experience or when we die, is some kind of artificial construction, and is not normal. So that's where I differ. I've always thought that it's just part of the bandwidth frequency of reality, but it's controlled, and there's a lot of entities there with agendas, that do certain things within it. But I never thought of it as being an artificial construction. What led you to the belief that it may be artificial? That's really interesting.
It's the belief of that is not something I've read anyway. It kind of comes from my own intuition and memories, which you might want to get into a bit later. But when I used to travel around doing my clairvoyance shows, sometimes I'd do a talk because I felt I needed to try and explain it as much as I could, is that the frequency of our thoughts and output leaving here takes us to an address on the astral. So it's like attracts like. It's murderers and stuff like that, low vibrational beings who go to a low vibrational place, and where our minds are.
And they're already kind of, in a sense, there when they're embodied, or the other portion of their soul that's not embodied. Isn't that right? That is already kind of residing on that frequency, in the non-physical. And then when you disembody, your perception returns to there, but you were already kind of there.
Yeah, in a sense you are.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah, because we resonate with the astral and these realms anyway, with our frequency that permeates the different realms, our thoughts and our frequency output. So I used to say to people that the process of passing, if we can pass happy, then we go into a better place over there. And so as a joke, I used to say, die happy. Not everybody can, I know that, but,
which is disconcerting to me. Well, that's real good, because death tends to be a kind of miserable thing. You're either in pain or something negative is happening, and even if you do believe in the afterlife, you're still kind of stuck in this kind of paradigm of thinking that oblivion is around the corner. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. So that was my belief, and I believe the astral realms, and I'm not saying I'm correct here. This is just my opinion. Is a looping system of frequency. So when we go into the astral realms and we loop back here, I think the only way to explain it is, do you know when you hear, and you must have heard in the night when you dream in and you hear a song or your words, and you wake up, and if you don't write it down straight away, it fades away. Yeah, and I think that's to do with frequency. The frequency of the words or the thoughts you had there, and you've brought it back here. It can't stay here because it's not from the same frequency.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's my own thinking as well.
yeah. So I think the astral realms, by the time we've done our thing in the astral realms and gone through those frequencies and then looped back here, then we kind of reset. Memories are gone and we start again. I don't think there's, well, you can call that the amnesia machine, but I don't think there's, I think it's all frequency based.
But isn't there something additional as far as what wipes the memories? Because, you know, I can understand, you know, you're going into the non-physical realm, and that's a different frequency, and your consciousness is in an altered state on a different frequency, on a different wavelength, say, and then you come back down to physical reality, and you're on the physical reality wavelength. And all of those memories, you know, are separated. They're on a different wavelength, you know, and that's why you can't access them.
Yeah.
But if we're just disembodying when we die and then coming back to this wavelength, the same wavelength, you know, why don't we have access to the memories then? You know, what happened in the transition? You know, some people think that, you know, that there's something going on, you know, some kind of enterprise, you know, in this realm, you know, that is in the business of wiping us, you know, before we come back in. Some people, you know, have a perspective that, you know, maybe this is actually, you know, good, and this is kind of part of the spiritual agenda, you know, like you don't want to have all your memories, you know, that's the point of physical reality, you know, and learning the lessons. Like you need to be kind of amnesic, I guess, in a way, you know, cut off from the truths, you know, that your higher self is aware of, in order to have these sort of 3D lessons and experiences. And then, you know, another camp thinks that, you know, this is, you know, something nefarious, you know, as to why, you know, they're wiping us.
I'm in both camps there, and I think all of that happens at the same time. I think energetically, we are the only commodity in this realm, and I do think there are entities that feed on our life source because they can't access that for themselves. And I believe some of them are the kind of agents of the system. They keep the system running the way it does in society structures and stuff like that. But also the experience that brings with us facing the shadow and working our shadow selves and having those experiences and elevating from them is another thing. So for me, it's knowing all that stuff, but not getting into the trap of fear, because again, I think it's the fear that suits this dualistic structure better.
Right.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Right. Yeah. So that's the thing, you know, if our memory is completely wiped, that's what enables us to fall back into the trap of fear, because we forget what this all is, and we forget that, you
It's a
know, that
resetting, yeah.
we're ultimately okay. We forget about all that, you know, and that is so essential for, you know, the mechanisms, you know, that they employ to control us.
Exactly.
Mark, we have another question here, and it's a very interesting question. Brian is asking, during out-of-body experience, have you ever gotten the impression of any kind of imprint left onto your soul? And they're referring to the fruits of the spirits of Galatians 5:22.
Imprint in what do you mean, from the experience of being out of the body? And
that's what I'm guessing. Yes.
Yeah, every time it happens, it's a profound experience, and it stays with me. So it's imprinted in that way. But I do think there's a different kind of imprinting that we are building us to to do with the raising of consciousness and humanity and where we are now. So, but the experience of being out of body, that's an imprint of itself. It's like, one time I was out there and I was playing with one of the buildings and changing the color of the building with just my thought, because thought is, the frequency of thought is very quick over there. Yeah, it's much slower here. It's the same here, but it's just much slower at the minute, but it's speeding up. So you can change things there very quick with your mind. Knowing you can do that, and you having that experience when you're there and doing things you can't do, like flying and everything else, that sticks with you, that imprints with you. And I kind of come back and think, why can't we do that here? I think at some point we will, but yeah, that's the kind of imprint I get stuck with. But
I'm not sure what I want to go to. There's two things that really interest me as to what you just said. What were the buildings that you saw, first of all, in the astral? And then maybe later on, in terms of being able to sort of manifest with ease in the physical realm, is it a matter of this realm being at a lower dense vibration, or is it a matter of ourselves needing to ascend to a higher vibration in order to do that? It's kind of really disparate question. Sorry, but
no, it's fine. I understand what you're saying. I think the density we're in now, the three-dimensional density or densities that we're experiencing, very dense energy, very slow, vibrationally slow. So with our thoughts, and people try and manifest their thoughts, and I think it depends. The speed of our thoughts, I think, depends on the alignment to our souls. So things are very slow here over there. I hope I got listened to your question properly. I think we're able to use more of our soul ability when we are in a higher state of frequency, i.e. what I've experienced when I've been out of body is higher state, being able to do things that I can't do here, or think like the building, like changing the color of the building very quickly. I can do that there. There's a number of experiences I can get into over there. There's also lower vibrational people over there, entities, and I found myself in those places where they.
Let's get into that. I really want to talk about this. And this, maybe we could bridge this also into, I want to get your perspective on the entities that we encounter during an NDE. And I know you feel that these are, tend to be dubious. But so what have you encountered as far as lower vibrational entities? And this is when you're out of body accidentally, or at this point, I think you're eventually at some point in your life purposely astrally traveling, right? Or doing intentional astral travel?
No, I don't actually. It's all random with me. So early in the morning, someone coined it. I think there's a friend I got on Facebook, Todd. He teaches out of body. And he calls it wake back to bed. So you wake up in the morning around 4, go and do your thing, go back to bed, and it's more chance of it happening around that time where you've gone back to bed and tried to go to sleep. You're not quite falling into a deep sleep, and you're in that realm. That's it. That's most of the time it's happened to me. But I've not tried to do that. It's just happened randomly, unexpectedly. Unexpectedly in a dream, it's lucid, and then you suddenly become fully conscious in there, and everything just brightens up. So I've lost.
That's the opposite with me. I just want to interject real quick. Whenever I have a lucid dream and I start to become conscious, everything starts to fade, disappointingly, to black, and then I kind of black out, and then eventually transition back into a dream and lose the lucidity. But it's like I have 10 seconds as soon as I become lucid, to do anything. in the dream when I'm lucid, and then it fades into blackness, and then it just you lose it so quickly.
Yeah.
But interesting, the difference there.
Now, Mark, these entities that you see over there, are they scary or anything? Do they give you any bad vibes or anything like that?
I gotta be honest here. I've not seen anything scary over there. I've sensed scary, felt fear, and I think looking back, there's more of a projected fear, because I think that if they can project fear onto you there, then you can release some of your hard-earned energy and feed them. So I think there's lots of that stuff going on. There was an outer body where I come across people, low vibrational people, and they were trying to explain to me that I had died, and one of them will take me back to see my children. And it took me a while to come around and realize I thought I was there with them. I thought, but then it was a kind of a struggle then to get away from them when I was, but I got away from them, and then I woke up here.
Now, there's a question here from Melanie Rayworth and Peter Thomas, and this is from Peter. What's your thoughts on the simulation theory? Could that be a slight glitch which causes out of body?
I actually know those people. So simulation theory is something else, and it, it's another rabbit hole to go down. I do think we're in some kind of simulation.
In a certain sense.
In a sense, yeah.
I think that a lot of people that are, proposing simulation theory, who are within, mainstream academia and in science, don't have it right, and are maybe way off as far as how their model, etc. But in a certain sense, it is a simulation, in a certain sense of the word simulation.
Yeah. But I don't think outer body is a glitch in the simulation. I think that's something that we do naturally.
Feature, not a bug.
Yeah, we suppress. We get like the same. I believe that when we sleep every night, that we come out, and you can have, for example, you can be in a dream and you see people you don't know in the dream, but they're familiar to you. And you're going along with the whole movie aspect of the dream. But what I think we do is our consciousness takes a glimpse into other versions of ourselves. And I think that happens. I also think it happens when you kind of drive your car and you're driving from A to B and you can't remember getting from A to B. It's you've zoned out totally and your memory's gone, and I think that's when our consciousness has literally left. And when you hear people saying, "Oh, I had a dream I was driving a car last night," I think literally we drop in that split 30 seconds to a minute, drop in, drive a car in another version of ourselves, and then drop out, and then we come back conscious after it, not knowing that we've been from A to B. Just as a theory of mine. So,
and you know what? That's a good theory, because that is something that, well, I know I can relate with, and I'm sure there's a ton of other people out there that can relate to that, where literally you are driving, but it's like you don't remember going from point A to point B. Exactly. And it's very, very crazy.
Yeah. So I've had literally had an experience with that during the lockdowns of zoning out, and I was driving up the motorway and I was going to work, and I was listening to a band called Keen. I don't know if you've heard of them over here in this country. There's a band called Keen. I was listening to one of the songs, and I remember listening to the lyrics, and I zoned out. And while I zoned out, while driving the car, I was next to a hospital bed, and I thought I recognized the guy in that hospital bed, and when I got closer, it was an older version of me who was dying, and
Oh,
he
wow.
told me to change the day. And that's another thing that experience I had.
So,
And I
sorry,
think
he told you to do what? Change the
he
what?
just said change the day, but it was a lot of feeling, and it was like a drop load of information with that simple sentence. Telling me to change the day, meaning like change my life. And he passed away. I watched him passing away. And
this is while you're driving?
This is while I was driving. And like the funny thing, going from A to B.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know anybody that had that experience until I read Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural. And there was a piece in there covering that exact phenomena. So, which was very interesting. So that answered a bit of questions for me. But
and do you think
we are capable, we are capable of so much.
And
with
do you
our
think
minds.
do you think in those instances when you're having an altered state experience when you're driving, that there's still a conscious part of you that is focusing on the road, and like the light is still on in your conscious mind somewhere, focusing on the road, but your point of perception is elsewhere, during that moment? Or why wouldn't you have, drove off the road?
I truly believe we have the ability to do that. And it can be that. It can be another version of ourselves dropping in, taking over, driving. It can be, it's so many things that, so many possibilities of what it can be. But I think it's all possible. I think it all happens.
So could that experience that you had, could that have been your older self dropping in on you?
It was definitely, yeah. He'd found a way, whichever way, to, it must have, maybe it was a memory of him. I've thought about this often. Maybe driving up the motorway at that time was a memory, because it would be a memory of mine now, because of the memory of his, that I've witnessed that. So yeah, I believe somehow he was loose in his etheric body, and he tapped into another version of himself, which was me, and give me a quick few words.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So let's swing back around to NDEs and just have a brief discussion on the entities that people encounter during an NDE, and then let's maybe transition back to your experiences and the timeline. So, and this is also where I may differ a little bit from you.
Okay.
I think that there could be potentially a lot of deception going on that level, and maybe depending on where our frequency and what sort of bandwidth we reach, of the astral, when we disembody, and because if you're at a lower sort of frequency, there's going to be those intelligences there who function in that kind of way. But then again, it seems that with a lot of these encounters that people have with these entities during the NDE, they're quite profound and oftentimes really spiritually transformative, and they're really convincing. Like you hear these people, these NDErs describe these experiences as being, just the most intense love, that you could possibly imagine, that nothing that I have experienced in this realm, comes anywhere close to that feeling of just being completely enveloped in pure love, during these, experiences, where they're, either talking to their loved ones or, some kind of what seems like, a higher dimensional or ascended master type being, or Jesus or something. Do you think that this is likely all deception? Or do you think it could be a mixed bag, that there are some that we are sometimes encountering higher dimensionals, who are ascended and are operating, according to divine principles in some kind of way? Or do you think, give us your thoughts on that?
That's there's a lot there, and that's a big subject to me, and it's something I'm very interested in. And again, it's through my experiences with mediumship, and which I'll get onto in a minute. But yes, I believe that at the point of death, people are perceived, deceived. Sorry, deceived. I think sometimes the family members that dangle there are not.
So in general, you think the family members, when you see the family members, that's classic, deceptive tactic that they're using.
Yeah.
In order to
Recycle us.
And
Recycle us back into the system.
And how do seeing your family members and being elated facilitate that? Because they're asking you, go through the light, or they're drawing you somewhere where they want you to go, or in what way do you think that they're facilitating the deception?
There's a number of variables there, and again, it boils down to the knowledge that we have and leaving this place. So we got knowledge. If we've learned a lot and we've got knowledge of the astral realms and spirits and entities and stuff like that, that we not always won't always get duped by that, and it may not for some people be a duping, because that's a word I've made up, by the way, duping. They may not get duped into it, because naturally that's where their minds are. That's what they believe when they leave here, and they believe they see in their family and stuff, and going straight back into the astral. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's where they are in their consciousness and their journey. But to me, which I've actually explained to my children as well, is the system that's in place is a kind of a trapping system. So I spoke to my children and said, when you get out, you take a turn to the right. And you don't go into that light. You take a turn to the right and look behind you and see what's there. Because behind you, I think, is where we actually come from. It's the stars and the stuff that we're all made for. It's the universe. It's the source energy. It's the way back into the proper realms that we are from. Not that system that keeps us in the three-dimensional looping system, not the three-dimensional reality. So I think, yeah. And to add to that, which brought me out of mediumship at the time I was doing it. I was traveling to a evening in Cardiff in Wales. It was a special evening, and I was traveling up the motorway, and I was beginning to have communication from something that was giving me the best communication I ever had. And I was
the best communication as far as clarity.
Clarity.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this. Yeah, go into the full detail of this communication, because this is something ultimately that I think, this is the proposition, right? And this is something that I think is important here, because this is one of the mechanisms by which they control everybody, or at least on the the higher level of thing.
Right.
Many people are getting this proposition that you got yourself.
All people who've got talent get this proposition.
Right. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So I get this communication, and it's so clear. I think it's like my imagination. I'm saying things in my imagination because it's so crystally clear. But I know who they are when I'm talking to them, and I'm saying to them when I'm telling them, hey, you do this for me then, and I'll do this for you. And things did get better after that. It was radio. I had bookings for VIP sittings in certain places with celebrities. It was a Brit Award invite to do work there. But every time I worked after that, anybody that works in this realm will be able to feel that you guys, I don't know how far you are, you can feel the energy, the subtle differences between a genuine connection and a bypass. And this is something that I learned, because I could feel that every connection I was making in every other event or just simple evenings was going through a third party, and I couldn't expand my mind into just having a natural connection anymore. So I think I'd consented to something that I couldn't get out of. And with that, it wasn't such a negative experience. It led me on to try and understand what was happening more with that experience. So I knew then who they were, and I knew that they were a form of entity that anybody who, celebrities, sports stars, could be anybody, will get approached by these entities, I feel. And from there, sometimes when you look at these celebrities or sports stars, you can see the difference in them. Sometimes I notice the difference because I know what's happening. It's like the lights have gone out slightly, and they are performing under rules and guidelines that they didn't have before. They couldn't be in the full creative ability. They can't shine their lights too bright. It's all controlled and funneled. So that's where I felt I was. And whether my mind could have got me out of it, I didn't have the knowledge in my mind to get me out of it at the time. Maybe somebody more experienced would have. But I felt trapped. And with that feeling of trapped, I was making myself more trapped. So I was kind of stepping away, kind of rehearsing, not rehearsing, but, thinking of things that can bridge a gap if I get stuck. Everything was going tits up, as they say, and I knew I just lost that connection because of what I'd done. So that's where I was on it. So that led me on to the understanding of the entities, and that they are out there and they do trick people. And that led me on to the thing then, very quickly, of when we are relaying messages from what we think is our loved ones over there. I don't think they're always our loved ones. I think sometimes they are entities, lower entities, impersonating our loved ones. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes.
So, that's very interesting, Jim. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay.
Because I know we was talking about deception and people on the other side, let's say spirits on the other side are saying to go to the light. I mean, it wouldn't all be deception, would it? And here's why. Let me see if I can share my screen real quick, because I do have something very interesting, and I am just, every time I hear it, I kind of get blown away. So let me see if you guys can hear this. That's probably not going to do it now. Let me back it up. So can you hear that?
Yeah.
Now, every time I hear this, it gives me goosebumps. This is something that I have had this encounter with years and years and years ago. And I believe that it's two spirits talking to each other. And one is telling it to go through the light. And obviously you hear, I need help. And it's saying, go to the light. What is your take on something like this?
That's very interesting. And my take is, I don't know if they can see each other or where they are or where they reside in, but I don't know if one spirit knows who is telling her to go to the light. It could be a voice that wanted to sound similar, or it could be genuine. It could be genuinely someone saying to go to the light. But that's a tough one for me. If I wanted to go with my feelings there, it's a spirit trying to usher somebody into the light. So I suppose,
and maybe a lot of us that disembody are just, you know, still kind of caught in that delusion, you know, even authentic, you know, souls of your loved ones still don't understand and still haven't uncovered the entire deception, and still think that, oh yes, you know, that's where I went, you know, go through the light.
yeah,
And then again, I just want to insert this here just for consideration. I mean, is it not, though, still sort of theoretically possible that your loved ones in disembodied form, so long as they are not, you know, back into the physical and already recycled, or any kind of connections that you have in the non-physical, they could theoretically come and meet you, could they not? You know, at this sort of interdimensional sort of space.
I got a theory which
Or mm-hmm.
on a view that might explain my thoughts better, because I struggle with believing the old system of that. That's something that we've all been programmed or conditioned to believe it happens. What I think happens now is that we, as souls, are able to communicate with different versions of ourselves and different versions of our higher self. I also believe we can converse and communicate with different versions of loved ones we've lost and their higher selves as well. So I believe the connection is much more multidimensional than we've been led to believe, that it's this world and the next world. I think that system of belief is very archaic, and I think we've kind of expanded, and we are expanding into a much bigger understanding of the nature of our reality and how big it actually is. So I struggle with that. Can happen. I think what we just heard, and I think it can depend again on the awareness and knowledge of the person and soul leaving here in its immediate exit. It seems like they're in a in-between place there, and maybe somebody's saying, for the best, go to the light, that will sort you out. Maybe they know.
Mm-hmm.
But
and as far as the deception part, this EVP is a continuation. It's not cut, it's not anything, it's just reversed. So everything that you're hearing, I just flipped and reversed it, and that's what came out. So there is one piece in there that really sounds that there could be deception. You hear what sounds like two females, and these females are talking, hey, you know what, I need help. And this one's saying, go to the light. And then a little bit farther down, you hear what sounds like something darker, and it says, get me out. So
right,
could it be a deceiving, and it's trying to say, it's trying to be as normal as possible, like, oh yeah, I need help, how do I get out of here? And all of a sudden it says, get me out. And
to me, that was like it experienced something or saw something, and it didn't want to go back in the direction it was going,
right
where it was.
And I'll play the clip one more time, so if anybody missed it, they can hear it.
It is in the light. What is in the light?
Exactly. What is it?
I have some I have some food for thought here.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is an NDE. This was, I can't remember the researcher's name who talked about this on the Sean Ryan show. And it's somebody who had a hellish kind of NDE. So what happened, I can't remember all the details, but I'll just kind of sum it up. When he got over, he encountered these people, okay, who I don't think he recognized them. I don't think they were his family members or anything, but he didn't know what was going on, and he just saw people and thought, and they told him, come with us, like follow us, it's okay, everything's all right. And he went on this journey with these people, like sort of walking somewhere, with these people. And as he's walking along with them, they start to talk amongst themselves, kind of whispering, and he's overhearing things, and they're saying things which indicate to him that these people aren't, who they say they are. And so this person starts to become a little fearful, okay, and starts to become more and more suspicious. They start to become more and more overt, that they're not maybe benevolent. And gradually, he's becoming more afraid and more afraid as time goes on. And all the while, I think what's actually happening here is that they're leading him vibrationally downward into a lower vibrational space, at the end of which they completely unmask themselves. And from what he says, they just eviscerated him somehow, like attacked him, created some kind of experience doing something that was so traumatic to him that he can't even detail that part of it. He can't even talk about it. It was just so horrific. And he has PTSD from that near-death experience, That was these lower vibrational entities, whoever they were, that was their strategy, to sort of take them and gradually, slowly, sort of gain his trust a little bit at first, and then let him overhear themselves, saying things which kind of start to sow seeds of fear and uncertainty about it.
That's right.
And then they sort of took him downward, I think, vibrationally into a lower vibrational plane, at which then they could, completely unveil themselves and do what they wanted to do for whatever reason they wanted to do that. So that was their sort of strategy and methodology. But then in some instances, it seems like the opposite happens with some entities who you encounter on the other side, where they're trying to get you to sort out your traumas. Also, the whatchamacallit, the life reviews that you go through, to me, on some level, seem to be a mechanism which might kind of get you to sort of release a lot of the things that you've been holding on to, because once you go through the life review, you kind of get a sense of what this is all about. Like, oh, this was all, a kind of lesson, a school, like, and you see, how the other person felt in this situation. And then you kind of forgive that person, that, they were actually just kind of being protective and protecting themselves. And so you seem to kind of, it seems, it's never explained, of course, like why, they're going through the life review. But on one level, it does seem like this is kind of like getting you to release, some of your traumas and your past things, which elevates your vibration and does the opposite of what those entities did to the one gentleman. So don't you get that feeling, Mark, that some of these encounters that you have with entities during the NDE seem to positively uplift you, and maybe even some of them, seem to, directly facilitate, a vibrational shift towards a higher frequency?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of the so many people now talking about shadow work and releasing traumas and stuff like that, and it's all connected with us and our raising of consciousness. Old traumas keep us in a particular place, and yeah, I believe there's good entities, and I believe there's not so good entities. I don't believe they're both from the same place necessarily. I believe there's a group of entities which you can call them the fallen angelics, you can call them demonic, you can call them all of that. I don't think that they have their own source or life source of energy. I think they use us. We're a commodity to them, and they try to get us to release our energy in a low vibrational way, whether it be low vibrational narratives, experiences, and stuff like that. So we release some more good energy so that they can have their sustenance. I believe they exist. I believe they're in a kind of shadow realm, and they can't always be here. But I believe we got entities, good entities, helping us release. Particularly if you're here, if you hear the term light worker and stuff like that, and if a lot of light workers could really see their lights, it would make a huge difference. If you could see light, you would choose where you want to put that energy more carefully when you can see it going into specific places. But I believe some people come here right now at this time, and they need to have these traumas lifted. They need to have that to be able to work efficiently, to help raise the consciousness and rebalance this place at the minute, because we're quite out of balance. So I believe there's help in other light frequencies who help us to release those traumas and put us back to work, basically, to carry on the work and anchor the light in and feed it into this grid at the minute, because to me it's getting quite overrun. And I believe we're going through two different resets here. We got a overlaid narrative reset, which the governments of the world are doing, and we got an actual natural reset going on, where our frequency raises naturally and we elevate out of here. But again, if they can use the narratives like we see on the news and like we see everywhere else now, and all the big stuff has happened in the past 3 years, which I won't get into, then they can put people into a state of fear and recycle them into the specific holding realms in the astral, ready to cycle back in, I think, to start the third density off again. But I think as light workers, it's our mission to kind of raise the consciousness and reconnect with ourselves and our inner Christos. I've seen somebody ask me if I believe in Jesus, and I believe that the Christ energy is inside us all. It's just a realization of how to utilize that and how to raise the consciousness in projecting that energy and helping others raise that consciousness as well. Not in a way of battling or fighting or taking up arms against governments and stuff. It's all there, and that's where the war is right now. It's right there. So yeah, I understand. Yeah, with what you're saying, with the good and bad entities. But,
yeah, I just thought that there seems to me, and I really don't know either. I'm completely entertaining of the possibility that it could be largely deception as well. I really want to know. I'm not invested in one perspective or the other, but it seems like there is a fair proportion of near-death experiences in which, when they have the encounter with whatever entities, it seems to uplift them. It seems to raise it seems to, at the end of the day, to have an uplifting of their vibration, it would seem. And so that's why I wonder, if maybe a lot of these entities aren't deceptive. Maybe I have heard, from some channeled sources that there are higher dimensionals that are tasked with this sort of job of catching you at that point and then raising your vibration and sort of getting you out of that, so you don't get stuck, in that sort of interdimensional zone. And some people misunderstand these entities and recoil in fear from them because they're non-human, apparently, some of them. And that is what this Chandler said was one of the reasons why people get stuck as a ghost or whatever, as an entity that's stuck in this sort of interdimensional range, because they're not accepting, they're being defensive, they're not accepting help from anyone or anything, and they're kind of remaining sort of in that interdimensional space, stuck in that vibration.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting topic though. Yeah, I really don't know what the truth is.
I believe that some of the aliens that present themselves to us as being good and helping humanity, I believe that's deceptive. I believe that's some of them are representing themselves, rebranding themselves, and coming out as they could be coming out as Pleiadian, they could be coming out as any of the other beings. So
right.
I believe that happens. I do believe that they can be real ones, but I think there's a lot of mismatch going on at the minute, and it's really hard to believe any particular thing. But I think it's down to, I think overall we are the aliens, we are the entities, we're the ones that came down here to sort this out, and we're the ones that's going to rescue ourselves. And I believe I don't know if you agree with me, but I believe we leave memory and coding in our DNA. And as our DNA activates upwards and the strands, you've got the potential of 12-strand DNA. As it activates up, we leave memories in each strand of our DNA to knowing what we're supposed to be doing and connecting with that. And as we connect with that, then we connect with the real entities, with the real people, because our frequency and our coding has changed, and we can connect with the real, but not the charlatans. And there's plenty of those charlatans out there.
Yeah, that is what I think too. I think that it could be an indicator as to how you know whether who you're talking to is authentic or not. What is the level? Where are you at spiritually? And if you are not, self-realized in a really kind of spiritually ascended state, then maybe it is much more likely than that who you're communicating with is also on that same level, a similar vibration. Yeah. And I do believe you about the memory being encoded into DNA and that being able to be activated. There's a lot of stories of spiritual masters like Yogananda, for instance. As he developed, he just started to have these memories of actually being on another planet. He claims to have had a memory resurface of like that. Why don't we transition into your UFO experiences?
Okay.
If you want, or if you think we have enough time to do that. I mean, I know it's getting late.
Yeah. Which one do you want to go to first?
Where does it all start? What was the first experience you had?
The first experience was when I was actually 8, and we had a friend over for lunch. It was my friend Rob, my sister again, and my mother. We had to take Rob home. I can't remember the time exactly, but the time is logged because South Wales Swansea UFO Network has logged all these witnesses, like 500 witnesses to the same thing. We got outside and house, and I remember my mother saying, "Oh, look at that!" And we looked up, and there's these two huge triangles. It was one in front of the other, and it was heading off over the bay down here, very slowly, no noise to them. But they were humongous, the biggest things I can ever remember them being. And they had white rings underneath and a lot of lights going off on them at the same time. And we stayed and watched them for some time.
Were the lights in the corners, just real quick, in the corners of the triangle?
There was lights in the corners of the triangle, and there was lights all over it. And they were literally intermittently going on and off in different parts of the craft. But the one thing that was stayed lit was the white ring underneath the triangle. That stayed lit. Didn't flash or anything.
And there was multiple of them, 2 of them, you said.
2 of them it was, yeah, 2 huge
And
ones.
when you say they were enormous, like how enormous? Like, were we talking like mothership enormous, like
Oh,
football field size,
you're talking
or
mothership
like
enormous. Yeah, mothership enormous. They were huge,
so
humongous things.
almost like the Phoenix Lights type enormous, like something really big.
Yeah, they were massive, and that was the night of the triangles. But we had to walk away from it in the end because my friend had to go get home. His mother was expecting home at a particular time, so we walked away from them, literally looking at them. They weren't going anywhere. But when we came back, about half an hour later, they were gone. But it was that was the first big experience of seeing UFO. Some people who had that same sighting, they had abduction, scarring, and stuff like that on them. So I've met them and spoke to them in meetings, so they remember that. Something wrong with their hair and stuff like that. So that was the first one. Anyway.
Well, let's just linger here a little bit. So it seems to me now when you're talking about the scale of the size of these craft, maybe these weren't TR3Bs, but the thing is that there's such a, I don't know, if you really sort of get into the literature of craft and my labs and everything, this could be wrong, that there could be ET craft that are triangular and are unrelated to these aerospace companies. But in general, it's thought that, if you see the TR3Bs, that is us, those are our craft.
I've seen a TR3B.
And Todd, we actually have some pics of the TR3B if you want to bring these up while we're talking about it.
Is that with the white lights in each corner?
Yeah, they're usually they're usually white. Sometimes there's a red one. Sometimes people see a green light, in the mix on a TR3B as well, but less commonly. And so that really sort of, throws things into a whole other, conversation, if you're seeing TR3Bs, if you've had a really, miraculous close sighting of a TR3B, then therefore, what is the meaning of that? And, that gets into the possibilities of my lab abduction. That gets into the possibilities of, frankly, special access programs, which you whether you are aware of it or not, could be involved in, and could be being used as an asset in some capacity. And this can literally happen and can be so seamless to where you would not know it. You would not know it, but just having one encounter of a close encounter of a TR3B could very well be, the tip of of a very large iceberg as far as many abductions happening.
I've seen that, but without the light in the middle, with the smaller one, the TR3B. Yeah.
I think these are authentic photos, actually, because they've got the field distortion effect. I think that's how people complain all the time. All these UFO, photographs, they're always blurry and distorted. That's actually maybe how they're authentic, because there's a field around the craft and it distorts the light. It refracts or whatever you call that.
But let me see here.
But
they're much smaller as well. The one we saw was much smaller. There was no noise. It turned into a cloud. And I remember my friend, because
are you talking about a different sighting now, or is this?
That's the TR3B we saw, which I think was a TR3B. I didn't know it was that until much later. But
not this initial sighting when you were 8. This is another sighting of a triangle.
The one when I was 8, that was something else. That was
something else because it was so large that it could not have been a TR3B in that case.
No. The TR3B we saw, which if it was that, was much smaller. It was like like an aircraft really, but there was no noise to it, and it angled into the cloud. And I'll never forget, because my friend looked at it, he watched it with me, and then he said, "Oh, firework," and walked off. He don't believe it. He never believed it. So.
And what point of your life was this when you saw this TR3B?
Teenager. I was around 16. Yeah, when I saw it.
Now, Mark, you described yours as it had a big ring of white light underneath it.
The big one, yeah.
Maybe something is in this Google search type of image that I have right here. I could not find anything quickly that had just a single bright light in the middle of the triangle.
I think it was drawn and put into the newspaper here when we saw it back in the day. But the closest thing to it, I think, was the Belgian triangles, when I saw all that stuff coming out, and that had the ring of light underneath them on those triangles, which is similar to the ones I saw. So I don't know how big the Belgian triangles were, but they were the ones that looked most like it, like what I saw when I was 8. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Now, so the one in your teens, just to make sure we cover all the details of that. So where were you? Was this at night? How close was it?
It was kind of twilight, and it was just after tea time, and it was right above us, just off to the. Well, it's hard for me to say this. You're not going to really get a good angle, but when I was looking towards the sea, it was just off to my left, the two of them. So, but they were right there. They were so close. They weren't high up. They were very low down.
And there was two also of these.
There was two of them, yeah, one in front of the other.
And the fact, and it was just palpable to you in your mind that these were not fireworks. These were obviously, some type of aerospace vehicle, in the sky. But your friend, now, to me, that seems possibly a little bit indicative of manipulation. And you do see this a lot, where, the person, even if it's, much clearer than that, or if it's just undeniable, that it's a craft, you still find this completely irrational response in some people, thinking that, I don't know, I might have saw something, but, I'm not real sure. And that's, to me, indicative of manipulation.
Yeah.
And which also gives the strong impression that there's more going on than just the sighting, that there's some kind of interfacing happening between the craft and you, or the occupants of the craft and you.
Two sightings that I've had, in one over the COVID lockdowns, and which I used and showed the pictures up in the basis talk. I'll have to send you the pictures, and I'm about to use the other pictures I've got in another talk I'm doing in December. So I'll send you them if you want.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So during the COVID lockdown, there's a steelworks in just outside my city in Swansea in Wales, and there's big chimneys in the steelworks. And I was driving past it on the motorway, and I looked at one of the chimneys, and there was an orb right next to the chimney. And my initial thoughts was that it's just a drone checking the chimney and all that. And my logical mind is rationalizing everything off, and as our minds do, and as our minds programmed to do. But with that, it shot off into the sky, and I caught pictures of it. Let me just see a minute. I caught pictures of it. Where's it going? Might be here now. It's not that one. That's that one. Yeah, this is I don't know if you can see that. That's a still I took off the. Well, you're not going to see it, do you?
No, we can't. We can see it at that angle. Okay. Yes. This was the picture you showed on bases. Yeah.
On the bases. Yeah.
Right.
So that one. that one, as it shot into the sky, it morphed into a plane, and it started doing acrobatics at 7:30 in the morning above the steelworks. And then as it dropped down, it came towards me and turned into a black helicopter. And I caught the black helicopter on the camera, which I used in the basis talk, and Miles used it on the interview anyway. And I caught the orb, just didn't catch the plane. So my thoughts on that is that my mind interacted with reality at that particular time, and I see that orb as a kind of cursor, like Windows when you moving the cursor around with the mouse on the screen. I think it's an interaction with, we logging into reality, because the sky above the steelworks became like a blank canvas to me, and I could feel that my mind was somehow connected to what was going on up there. So I think a lot of these experiences are very powerful and to do with our minds. And I think reality feeds back what we recognize, so that we interact with it more, like the plane, like the helicopter. And that's I've had two of them experiences.
Right. I want to add something to this. Yeah. I mean, there could be something really profound, going on there with that, and that's a really deep conversation that we can have. Another possibility is that, and this also involves, your mind playing a role here, and that is that it seems to me, based on all the research that I've done, as far as, and this not only pertains to craft, but also, when people have encounters with the beings themselves, and they mask themselves and make them look like something else, or like humans, a lot of times, what's actually going on is that they're hacking into your perceptual system, and so your brain is actually creating it. The helicopter or the plane in the sky, but it's because they're doing that. They're feeding you that data or whatever, how the waveform information, and you're decoding it like the image of a helicopter or a
We've
plane.
been used to create that image, yeah.
Right, and there is a lot of precedent, in the abduction field, of people seeing helicopters, which aren't helicopters. Which, all of a sudden, they'll look up and there's a helicopter right there, very low, to where, they would, of course, be just slammed with the sound of the rotor blades if it were a real helicopter, but it's just hovering there totally silently, revealing, that it's, something other than a helicopter, an actual helicopter, but it looks like a helicopter from the person's perspective. And so that's my thought in a lot of those cases, that they are masking, and they might do this all the time. There might be a lot of traffic, that we see in the skies, and that's how they're doing it, and that's how they're masking all of their comings and goings from bases and things. They might have some kind of, with the technology that they have, way to hack into everybody's perceptual system and make them perceive it as a Boeing 747 or what have you.
So they think they walk amongst us as well, because they have the ability to. People think they got technology and they shapeshifters. They're not. They change our perception of the way we see them. So we see them as human, and a lot of time they're not. I've seen someone I know's face glitching. And it was a clear glitch because she moved away from me as her face was glitching. So, we don't really know who's around us for that.
No, yeah, we really don't. If that technology exists, it could be everywhere. It just could be really common, and it could be like they live. Almost.
I think it is common. I think it is. It's the tech that's suppressed from us, but I think it's old technology. I don't think it's anything new.
Right. Yeah.
Something we've been using for a long time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So moving on, is there any additional notable UFO experiences? And then maybe while we still have time, I do want to cover the reptilian
Yeah.
experience.
Okay.
Although
Yeah.
we might not be able to go, I wanted to go deep into Freemasonry and all that, but maybe we'll do another podcast on that, and
Yeah. No
ritual
problem.
magic and all that. That could be a podcast all in itself.
Okay.
Um,
I can cover that, what I saw, if you want, as a kind of you know warming up kind of thing, if you want, if we're going to
yeah,
do this again.
sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had loads of different sightings. There was one, very quickly, one sighting, and it was a friend of mine who was staying in a house I was living in years ago, and I was dropping him home at 1 o'clock in the morning, driving him home, and we got a mental hospital, which I live right behind now. I'm kind of home, right? But it's a mental hospital called Kevin Coyd, is in Swansea. And as I was driving him home, I was the road we were on. The mental hospital is kind of on top of the hill, elevated, and above the hospital, 1 o'clock in the morning, there was a huge orange ball, and my first initial thought looking at it was, that's the sun, and then realizing, no, it can't be the sun. So I managed to drive pretty close to it, to an opposite kind of hill, which is very close, looking at it. And while we looked at it, it looked like the sun. It looked like it was burning, this orange ball, but it shot off into the sky. And as it shot off into the sky, it turned white, and it had like a spiral tail behind it. I'll never forget. And it went up there really, really quick. So that was another sighting that sticks with me. That particular thing is, it's not a usual sighting of a disc.
Yeah. And I've heard about those sightings as well. I actually know a person who swears that on a couple times on her way home from work, there were two suns in the sky. And it's my feeling that, one of those was the real sun and the other was not another sun, but was some type of craft. And that is how a lot of people who have had sightings describe the light that they see, and this is, I think that the sort of plasma effect
Yes,
of
right,
field
plasma.
propulsion vehicles is that it resembles in some way the plasma of the sun. The sun is also
Yeah.
plasma, and that's why it looks like that.
It was
But yeah,
interesting that it was above a mental hospital, because you kind of wonder what it might be doing there above that place. With the
right,
people in there, you got people in there with suffering with schizophrenia and everything. And are they really suffering with schizophrenia? Some of them, or are they being, actually spoken to and
yeah.
abducted?
I think a fair amount of them, if not like the great preponderance of people that are hearing voices, it's not their own mind creating those voices. I mean, they are being communicated to. A lot of times these people do have problems, and they do have, a condition, and might have delusional thinking even, but there's a certain portion of what they're experiencing that is real interaction with
Yeah.
non-human intelligences.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, someone in that hospital is
Yeah.
yeah, maybe an abductee, or
Yeah.
who knows.
Definitely. Definitely. Do you want to cover the
Yeah, let's close with that, and then this will be a kind of
all right.
teaser for another podcast.
So
Well, give us a little intro into, how you got into Freemasonry. So you became a Freemason at some point.
yes, I did. I won't go into details of how, but I just know it was somewhere I was meant to go at the time as part of my learning, and it was kind of hard to, because at the time I'm very much, just to touch on it very lightly, very much into the ritual magic going on in society, and the ritual magic going on with false flag events, and using cities as temples, basically. And I think Facebook is quite a big temple for all sorts of magic and freelance magic and all those magicians. Anyhow, that led me into the Masonic Lodge, and I had pretty good knowledge going in there, if I'm being honest, because it was very much an interest of mine, all the esoteric subjects, and learning about how energy is manipulated and stuff like that, and knowing that Masonry is an archaic system of magic. I was interested to learn. I got to say it as well. There's a lot of good people in there, so it kind of gets a bad press with people thinking everything to do with it is evil and stuff like that. And it's good and bad everywhere. These people are not intentionally evil or in any shape or form. Maybe higher up. I mean, higher up the orders, Masons do cross over into covens of witches, which the system is exactly the same. So
right, and there can even be people who are fairly high up, like Manly P. Hall. I don't know what his 33rd degree or whatever. Clearly he is not involved in. If you listen to, clearly there is a lot of
he's
people.
He's quite enlightening, isn't he?
Yeah.
Right. And he's empowering when you listen to his stuff and all that. So it depends which way you want to take the magic, and again, it comes down to people's minds and perception and what they have inside in their hearts. You get a dark heart or a nice light, healthy light going on there. So anyway, it was a third degree ceremony, and third degree ceremony is done with the lights off. But on this particular night, it was done in a place called the Minor Temple, and for some reason the lights couldn't be switched off in the organ room. So up above in the temple, you have an organ room. So you've got an organ player, and the whole temple is acoustically built for sound and resonance. So, yeah, do you want to ask a question?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I did not know that. So like and all for the organ, the sound of the organ to resonate appropriately.
It resonates
and that is I did not know that either. That the organ music is a big part of the magic or whatever.
Big part of the ceremony and a big part of the magic. Yeah, and it'll all be in perfect timing in the ceremony to a particular perambulation around the lodge, or a particular narrative or allegory drama that's being played out. It'll come in at the right time. So much like a church service, it's very Catholic. It's almost Catholic in its way. Like if you can imagine a Catholic service, it's very similar. So you've got the checkered floor, and you've got the outskirts where everything is clockwise. And I remember sitting there. It was quite dark in there. There was just light coming from the organ room and reflecting into the temple. The organ room is quite high up, and I'm sitting there with a friend, and all coming from a spiritual background of mediumship and that, I start seeing lights with tails on darting across the checkered floor, and I think that was
like what people would describe as orbs, you think? Or
they were orbs with tails, yeah, but very, very light, and they were just going off into no particular direction, just like as if like wild,
like really salient lights, like bright,
bright lights,
caught your attention.
Yeah.
And is there a group of people, all sitting next to each other? Now at this point, are you noticing that other people are seeing the lights or not seeing the lights, or
I didn't notice the other people because it's kind of in the dark at ceremonies. Can't really see the other people. If I'm looking across the temple to the chairs opposite, I can't really see their faces. So maybe a glare or dim, but I can't see where they're looking. But when I saw the lights, I wasn't looking at anybody anyway. I was just looking at what was going on, and I remember thinking, oh, that's nice. Look at that. Look at those lights. It's nice. As you come from a mediumistic background, you see lights. Oh, look at that. Anyhow, duped myself. And then I looked at the lights, and I looked up, and then on about 6 foot away from me, maybe 7 foot away from me, I guess, 3 froggy snake looking beings were standing there. 2 of their backs turned to me, and one of them was looking straight at me.
Just like snap and they're there, or
yeah.
sort of fate that they were just all of a sudden they're there.
All of a sudden,
no sort of transition, just bam,
no.
they appear.
They were there. I didn't see how they got there. Thinking about it, they must have ported there somehow. But there's another thing going on here, is that not everybody can see them. So far, I'm the only one that can see them, and I didn't know who could see them, and I didn't know who to ask if they saw them either. It was kind of like an elephant in the living room thing.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to just reveal to people that, in any case, that that you're seeing stuff.
No, exactly.
If you're not sure that they've seen it also.
Well, because there might not be room upon the hill if you're telling people that.
Yeah, funny, I'm living right behind it now. But
go into the full description of so they all of a sudden they just manifest, and this is really close. So this is only 6 or 7 feet away.
6 or 7 feet away from me. The 2 of them had their backs
and
to
did
me.
you not? And if I get you right, when you describe this in bases, you were not surprised, and I find that an interesting element. Like I would have thought, if an immense imposing reptilian figure suddenly manifests before you, there'd be some shock to that.
It was a
say that again.
Me not being able to process that situation properly.
Okay.
So I had no
almost
figures or nothing. It was just like, what am I looking at? And I'm still trying to work it out. So
maybe just because of the seamlessness of the transition, all of a sudden, they're just there, and
yeah.
But what did they look like and everything?
So they had kind of white skin, and it had like Dalmatian patches on them, but they were a little bit bigger than like a Dalmatian patch.
So black patches,
black
like
and
Dalmatian.
Brown.
Reptile like at all, as far as the coloration, like it all reminiscent of the sort of patches and coloring of reptiles.
The two that had their back turned to me had tails, and the one looking at me had I could see then he had a frog's mouth with snake's eyes, and it's no neck. It was just all one kind of thing, and just standing there and looking at me. And I was looking back at it and
looking at you, motionless, not eyes not shifting around,
not
or just
shifting,
fixed
looking
on
at
you.
me. It's close enough that I can see he's looking straight into my eyes. And that whole thing lasted for only about a minute, and then they just disappeared. And I didn't see how they left either. So.
How tall do you think? Very tall, human height?
I would say maybe 6 feet, 7 feet. They weren't super tall, like has been described in a lot of reptilian sightings. They were, our height really.
And the ones where you could see their tails. Now, did the tail just sort of come out and then down and lie on the ground, like?
Yeah, it was on the ground. It was coming out of the back, lower back, and just onto the ground. It was quite a long tail. So
quite a long tail that kind of snaked a little bit. And how were they standing? Now this is a ritual that's going on. Are they in any kind of sort of formal stance or anything? Were they all standing the same exact way?
They were standing upright, and the one that was looking at me had a Masonic wand in his hand, which is very interesting. But they were part of the ritual. I don't know how they were doing it.
Now, what is a Masonic wand, and what does that look like?
It's a wand that, in a ritual that people will hold and perambulate around with and use. So it's literally called a wand. I can't remember just off the cuff who would hold that wand, to be honest with you. But
And what's on? Is there something on the end of the wand, or
yeah,
is it
there's like an emblem on the top of the wand, or it's like a bronze thing on the top of the wand. So yeah.
And it was identical to the wand that Freemasons
Oh yeah,
used.
it had it in his hand. It had it in his hand like that, and he was just looking at me, and it was just surreal.
And only one had a wand.
Only one. Yeah.
Any kind of facial expression, or were they entirely stoic? Any kind of grimace, or
His face didn't move. It's just a stare. It didn't make any kind of no twitches, no movement, nothing with his face. Just staring.
And so the mouth was. Now, when you say frog mouth, how do you mean frog
It was
mouth?
exactly like a frog's mouth.
Like a frog.
Exactly like a frog's mouth. Yeah. Yeah.
And what about the eyes and then the nose?
The eyes was kind of a snake-like eyes. That's the only way I can describe it. It just looked like a snake. But the nose was quite.
As far as the pupil, how are they snake-like? As far as the pupil being a vertical pupil, or as far as the actual shape of the eyes?
The shape of the eyes is all I could see. I didn't see the pupils. Good enough. I didn't get a good view of the pupil. So I remember it's only partially lit up there at the time when I saw it, but didn't get a good look at the pupils. Nose is quite flat, like almost like no nose.
Okay, like almost like smushed in, maybe. Kind of like almost
really,
like
really close to the face. Yeah.
Very interesting. And so I have heard before. I think I have heard that people. There is a minority of reptilian encounters where they see a white reptilian, and I think there's someone out there. I don't know if this is Simon Parks, that has said that the white reptilians, I think, are royalty, or of some kind of.
That's what I thought.
That was your feeling.
That was my initial feeling there, because of the skin reminded me of the thing that the royals wear around their necks on those I don't even know what to call them. You see that white furry thing around their neck, and that was their skin. That was
their skin looked, so the texture was abnormal. It kind of had a ruffled kind of texture.
The texture looked leathery of them. But I see that the royal family in certain ceremonies will wear that furry. It's like a top in it with a furry white thing around, and that looked like their skin. So that's why I thought.
That's an interesting detail, and perhaps that reveals something as to the origin of that thing that the royals wear, and there's some kind of connection with that, which I don't think anybody's ever talked about before, as being potentially related to these reptilians. And then they sort of disappeared in the same way that they appeared, like just gone, like within a fraction of a second, there's nothing.
Yeah.
And so no one else saw them, or no one that you know of.
No one that I know of. I asked the question to one person that I trusted, and they didn't know what I was talking about and who was there. And so I didn't ask the question anymore. I just left it. But I don't think there's a single day that goes past I don't think about it. It's kind of burnt in my mind.
Right. And so the fact that the lights were unable to be turned off, which is kind of an odd thing.
Yeah.
why weren't they able to switch off the lights? You know, I find
Yeah.
that strange. Do you think that that's done so that in case there's anyone, you know, who's got psychic perception that could potentially perceive them, that if that happens, it will be too dark and, you know, they won't be able to notice anything?
Maybe.
Or
I've often thought about this, and I think it comes down to levels of clairvoyance as well. So I think that would give someone a clairvoyant person a greater chance of seeing what's actually going on. When you look at ancient Freemasonry or Egyptian Freemasonry, the worshipful master of a lodge in Egyptian Freemasonry was always a clairvoyant, and would always sense the energy in a lodge and remove any disharmony, because you can't have it, because it will ruin the magic. So they would remove them.
disharmony as far as humans who might be in emotional states potentially, or
or squabbling between two people that wouldn't be acceptable in ancient Freemasonry.
so they don't want any negative energy.
Nothing at all.
Interestingly.
And this is when I believe the craft belonged to the people, and the lodges were mixed, both male and female, because it's masculine and feminine energy. It was known that, you know, it was a trinity that went on in those ceremonies. It was connecting the physical, the mental, and the spiritual together through a system of allegory and drama, sound and resonance and acoustics. And with that, they would link into the spirit realms and communicate with different entities back then. And the magic that was built in the temples back then was sent to part of the earth that needed the healing. Now, this is ancient stuff, and this is the stuff you don't see in Freemasonry anymore. The energies, the temples have been switched around, and the energy's been bypassed. It goes somewhere else. So it's a very powerful system. Yeah.
All of the mystery schools, which is I think what they originally were, just, I mean, isn't that your understanding that secret societies originally, were secret societies because that they'd be persecuted, if this was out in the open, and it had to be secret for that reason in order to protect the information, and that if you trace back, most secret societies, they were benevolent and positive towards the interests of humanity at one point in time. But since then, do you think that all of them essentially, have been co-opted and hijacked in some kind of way, or inverted?
I think the whole system has been hijacked and inverted, as you say. I think that's happened. That's been depowered. You have a system of magic that relies on masculine and feminine energy in the right places within the right ceremonies, but you've got no women there. So where's the friction of the masculine energy to get that power coming from? It's not. So it's totally depowered, and it's not working the way it's supposed to work. And if you look inside a temple, it's the reflection of our anatomy. You have all the 7 chakras on the ceiling. You enter in the womb, you enter in the mother when you go into those temples. But everything that's done now is not naturally to do that anymore. It's depowered, as I say.
So why the change, do you think, Mark? What happened that this change happened over all these years?
I think there was a time where anything to link us with who we are, our consciousness, our magic, our true heart source energy, was dismantled in every shape or form. It's like the burning of the witches. It's like I think it all happened in a short period of time. I think the Jesuits got into the Freemasons and just inverted everything, as you say, Jim, and that's exactly what happened. Things in the wrong places, women out, and teachings not wrong. I think they keep those teachings for themselves, the truth of the magic in the higher orders. I think they do that, but I think they don't give it freely anymore like it used to. It used to be a craft and a map of our reality, but it's not no more. Now it's twisted and inverted. Now it can be very dark magic in areas, but not everybody in there is into dark magic and stuff like that. There's some really good people in there. So, and some people are not aware of what they're doing. They don't have the knowledge. People can be there for different things. You know, they could be lonely. They could be, you know, living on their own, and they go into literally make friends and meet people in that
Right.
way.
And of course, you know, the totality of Blue Lodge Freemasonry, you know, are people uninvolved, you know, in anything. And maybe even, you know, up to the 33rd degree. I mean, some people believe that it isn't until you get to what people think are the maximum level degrees that you get to, I think, what David Icke describes as the Illuminati degrees, you know, which extend beyond the 33rd degree. And that's when have you ever heard of this? That there is I don't know if you would call this a ritual or a ceremony where they take you and they bring you in front of a Bible, and then they ask you to spit on the Bible. And if you refuse to, you're patted on the back and they say, you know, good, you know, you passed the test. And that was, you know, what we wanted, you know, you to do. But if you do go ahead and spit on the Bible, then, you know, those are the members that are taken to the higher levels. I don't know where I heard that. I don't know if that was David Icke that said that.
Yeah, it's very possible. And, you know, again, it's to do with the inversion or the crucifixion of the Christos in the Bible. It's you know, there's a clear separation going on there. They're trying to find what's in people's hearts there, and then subconsciously what they're going to do, and spur them off, and that would make sense that would be done. 100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mark, I want to ask this question, and this has to do with religion as well. Now, in your practice of being a Freemason, you talk about magic and things like that, but the Bible tells you that none of that is true. That magic is, you know, that's all demons and evil. And so I'm kind of torn on this
I can help you with that.
because I get why it's a secret society and why they went secret society, because you wouldn't want people to know that you're going not really against the Bible, but certain aspects of the Bible. Tell me your thoughts on this.
So the Bible says not to delve into any form of magic, and you know, I can't remember where that is. I remember hearing it and remembering it, and to a degree, I agree with it to a degree, because I think when you get into dark magic, then a certain degree of it, you are creating a spell off the back of somebody else. So, you know, you can be running a narrative, or the energy's coming from another person that they're unaware of. They've just unwittingly consented into taking part, or they on a bigger scale, they've consented to taking part in an operation because it happens on big scales, more than we can imagine. So then it's predatory. It's kind of predatory of other people, and I think that's a hacking system, to take our energy and life source, and it's a hacking system for the lower entities to feed themselves. And I think there's always a karmic, magnetic consequence to doing that. But I think we're at a time now where we don't need to to do these rituals to be able to manifest and create reality the way we want. And I think it's getting to the point where we're learning that the sounds and the vibrations of our words, our thoughts, and our thoughts when we've cleared a lot of traumas are much more powerful because there's nothing angering in between or blocking us. And I think we're getting back to that. And I think that is godlike and who we really are. So we're coming out of this kind of really bit of a dark illusion, to be honest with you, and a bit of a trapping system and a twisting of magic, which doesn't serve humans, because humans don't need that magic, I don't think. It's serving something else. So I agree with the Bible with, when I look at it, to say not to delve into dark magic and any form of dark magic.
Sure, but the according to the Bible, everything of magic is no good, and this is where it's confusing to me, because it's almost like a suppression. The Bible is like a suppression. It talks like it's a suppression anyway. If we as humans can manifest together all this greatness, then why would they say you can't do it? Because literally, like you, light worker, things like that, are doing such good things, but yet that's a no-no in the Bible. And I think it's because if we can all come together in a positive note, and we can manifest peace and harmony and things like that, then the darker powers to be are like, oh wait, we can't have this. Is that kind of?
Yeah, I think it's the form of magic we choose, and I think it's a magic that's more aligned to us, more aligned to our heart center, more aligned to who we are as a soul, and that's natural. I believe we're all gods and we all have this God power, but I think the God power has been spurred off us, and I don't think there's anything wrong with using our own power and our own magic. But in that form, I think that there is an imbalance like that. I don't think that's right, the way it's used in dark magic and stuff. I say it's hurting other people.
Sure.
It's taking their energy. So there's going to be a consequence to that. But
no, thank you for your insight on that, because I was just kind of confused. Magic can be taken as a bunch of different things. And one of those was, if you could take plants that can heal somebody and you used them back in the day, people were like, well, you're a witch, and now you're going to be burned at the stake. So, and even though that's a positive thing, because we're using plants that God put here to help people, it was definitely frowned upon.
yeah, definitely. I think it's just about getting back to that, and I think that's the process we're going through now, is getting back to who we are, getting back to our natural states of being, our soul abilities, our even old-fashioned phone calls, telepathy, old-fashioned forms of flying, levitation. I think this stuff is all going to come back, and we're in the slow process of going through this filtering system. Some people are not ready, and some people have seen it, and I think there's a definite divide going on. There's definitely splitting of camps, and let's see what comes of that.
Yeah, because it seems like there's so much negativity nowadays because of politics and wars and all these different things, and the disinformation on all sides, that people that want to believe in the goodness of humanity are now saying to themselves, hey, this is, I don't even know where to believe anymore, because I'm being torn in so many different pieces. So
I think politics is slowly degrading and crumbling. I think that whole system is slowly coming down. You see all the corruption in there. It's more evident now than any time, particularly in your guys' country, with what's happening there with Biden and everything. And it's interesting to watch the unfoldment happening there. And to me, there's an energetic component to that in a light realm that you can't see. That's kind of the drama playing out is like the end user result. We've seen the end of it, but there's something bigger going on behind the scenes energetically. So again, it's like Freemasonry, and they're playing out ceremonies, and they're perambulating around, repeating themselves, taking turns of being in the big chair, and is no different. So I think people are waking to that, and they've seen it, and maybe nobody turn up for the voting anymore in the end, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with that in the future. But it's really interesting, all of it.
Yeah, that would be a good subject for another podcast.
Yeah,
all the ritual magic and how they've been using the false flags, and what has been going on there with that. But yeah, maybe we should wrap this one up since it's well over 2 hours.
Okay.
Yes. And, thank you so much, Mark, because your insights and the things that you are talking about, it's just so fascinating, especially like Freemasons, Knights Templars, things like that, that people don't really hear about. And they're not quite sure what these things are. Yeah. And I myself am very fascinated with that stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I think that it's good to have people like you on to explain about this magic that was once used.
Yeah.
So
I think information is to empower us and not to put us into fear. When we put into fear with stories and that, it was really externalizing our perception instead of taking it back within. So I think it's very important to get grounded and empower ourselves and get back within. Anyhow, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Mark, so much
Thank
for
you very
coming
much.
on. I definitely want to have you back on. There's so much more that we can discuss and talk about and learn from each other on.
Yeah.
Jim, is there anything else you would like to close with?
No, yeah, we'll just do another podcast. Yeah. And I'd love to get into, because I know you were also in the Knights Templar, not the real, Knights Templar behind the Knights Templar, but I'm really interested in that. I've had a lot of synchronicities that have led me to that, and I don't know if you know a lot about, I'm assuming you probably do, since you were in that organization. I'd love to maybe get into that sometime, and yeah, and the false flags and the ritual magic. Yeah, we'll just do another podcast.
Yeah, go more in depth with your reptilian experience.
Yeah,
we could even go more in depth with that.
There's other experiences with reptilians as well.
Yeah, we did not cover one of your
them, but yeah, we can talk about them.
Good.
I wasn't actually in the Knights Templar for long, just to correct you.
Okay.
But I saw the the doorway into the real Maltese Templars, because that was spoken about. So it's kind of a front, that one, and then there's a doorway into the proper one.
Wow. Yes, I'm excited. I can't wait to delve into more of this. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in and liking and subscribing and all that good stuff. And I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. And Mark, thank you again so much. You're a world of knowledge and information. And I know that
you guys are too.
I definitely know from the questions that were being asked to you that others are definitely interested in what you have to say.
Oh, brilliant. That's good.
All right. All right, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.
Mhm.
Cheers.
Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. Paranormally Beyond Disclosure is looking to talk with ufologists, researchers, investigators, contactees, abductees, channelers, and more for upcoming shows. Or if you have stories, photos, videos, questions, suggestions, or comments, please contact us through Messenger or email us at paranormalypodcast@gmail.com. You can also visit us at paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. I thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Paranormally Beyond Disclosure.